Let's break this down because this has to do with the case involving the defunding of Planned Parenthood. As you know, they said, yes, you can defund Planned Parenthood. And they said, well, let's hold off and see. Now it is even more of a mess, as it sounds like 25% of Planned Parenthood can still be funded.
Cannot be funded.
Cannot be funded.
Or can be funded. It is convoluted. You're right the first time. Here's what happened.
It's like the way they play the money game when it comes to life.
Right. So the judge, remember, gave a 2-week temporary restraining order blocking the implementing of the big, beautiful bill portion that defunded Planned Parenthood. They had a hearing on Friday, which was 3 days early because Planned Parenthood tried to get it moved back. But the government said, no, we can do it early. So the judge took that up. They had their hearing early on Friday. And yesterday was the judge's own deadline for ruling on a preliminary injunction.
Remember, this is what we're talking about. What we had talked about last week, saying there was a specific deadline put in place by this judge.
That's right. So the temporary restraining order would only last until midnight last night on the 21st of July. And then either the law would go into effect or she would have to rule on a preliminary injunction. Now, when our team came in this morning and I was trying to explain what the judge did, I led with this. And so I want to say it to everyone. This is going to hurt your brain, the logic and the hoops that the judge jumped through to try and come up with some sort of protection for Planned Parenthood. And at the end, she granted a preliminary injunction for about 25% of Planned Parenthood affiliates. She did not rule on a preliminary injunction for the remainder of them. And she said, I'll take it under advisement. Even though she had given herself a deadline, she didn't say, I don't grant a preliminary injunction in them, or I do. She just said, I'll take it under advisement, which essentially kicks the can down the road, but it allows for the defunding of that 75% for now.
Yeah, and so you understand, the reason it's the 75% is she's saying roughly 25% of Planned Parenthood facilities do not provide abortions. Of course, we know a lot of state laws have changed. We know that a lot of state laws now no longer allow abortions. So, of course, what she's saying is you can't justify defunding those places that don't support abortion. Not support abortion is the wrong word. If you're Planned Parenthood, you support abortion. But if you don't provide abortion, because Planned Parenthood is broken up into individual states, individual regions and districts. It's not just all one corporation. Now, there is the big corporation, and that is what's been defunded, 75% of it.
The judge went to great lengths to find a way to keep some money flowing to Planned Parenthood. And it goes into, I mean, when you read the factual statement basis of her order, it just goes into how wonderful and how necessary, life-saving Planned Parenthood is, and that by picking and choosing, the government is putting millions of people's lives at risk. That's always the favorite angle of everyone, is that if you cut money somewhere, by default, someone's life is at risk. That's kind of the status quo for government funding at this point. But what this judge did was effectively grant the injunction, so allowing this subset of Planned Parenthood affiliates the ability to continue to receive government money, while the vast majority, at least for now, because of her deadline, the TRO, the temporary restraining order, expired, they won't be receiving Medicaid reimbursement or federal dollars. Break down what the judge did here and really kind of why it was so unusual for us to see this.
Yeah. Well, and just like you said, as I was reading the opinion, it's about, I think, 30 pages long. As I was reading the opinion, it definitely reads like an advertisement for Planned Parenthood. So you know exactly, as you read this, where this judge's alliance and allegiance lies, definitely. However, she gets very creative because, you know, in our amicus brief that we filed in this case, we absolutely argue the fact that, you know, there's no constitutional right for subsidies, that Congress has the power of the purse, all of those, arguments, which are the constitutional arguments that, yes, the federal government, when they're giving money, they can have strings to that. So she goes out and says, okay, I'm going to go to the freedom of association. That's where I'm going to go, because some of these Planned Parenthoods, and just to kind of put it into numbers, there's 47 members that that Planned Parenthood Federation has. So there's 47 members.
And the members are essentially districts or states.
Usually
or
a state.
Planned Parenthood, wherever.
Massachusetts or
Right.
of Utah, or we have of Tennessee and northern Mississippi.
Yeah, they have them broken down.
Right.
So their organizations probably so they can say, okay, this one needs more funding, less funding.
That's right.
When they're
So
big corporate.
the 47 members, there's about 600 clinics that these 47 members operate. And actually, 2 of the members joined in this lawsuit. So the Planned Parenthood Massachusetts and Planned Parenthood Utah were also members that joined individually. But she reaches to those members that actually didn't join individually. But she reaches to the other members and she basically says, look, if you're just associated, let's say you don't comply with you provide abortions and you get less than $800,000 worth of Medicaid reimbursements, your only kind of harm or crime is that you're associated. But because of that association, the way that the law is written, it lumps in affiliates. She's saying, well, that then violates your freedom of association for those 10 clinics out of the 47, the 10 members, not clinics, members, the 10 members that don't fall under that $800,000 and providing abortion limit. And so I think you've already addressed this. I mean, overall, it is probably about 75% of the Planned Parenthoods that are not getting their funding. So that is a very, very good thing. But it's an interesting opinion that she's carving out.
The door stays
this
a little open.
Yes, abortion exception, and the fact that she's taken it under advisement. So what that means to when an appeal can happen.
And that's right. So one, it also seems like she's set up a scenario where you can have both the defendants, which would be the government, and the plaintiffs, which would be Planned Parenthood, both appealing her preliminary injunction ruling at some point because the government saying you gave them too much, the Planned Parenthood saying you're not giving us enough. So she may be trying to have threaded the needle for optics to some degree. But here's the other angle of it that has me scratching my head is that we got the case of Trump v. Casa, where that was about the preliminary injunctions at the Supreme Court, these nationwide universal injunctions. And the Supreme Court basically said that you can issue an injunction, which is what we're dealing with here in this case, in a case before your court, to people that are before your court in the proper jurisdiction. And what we're starting to see out of this is where she wanted to say Planned Parenthood isn't that closely interrelated when it comes to the funding issue. So for government purposes, you have to look at them as just a bunch of different organizations that hang out. But when it comes to the injunction purposes, they are so intertwined that I can give injunctive relief to these 10 members, only one of which was before the court. That would have been Utah. Massachusetts Planned Parenthood, who was in her state, did not get injunctive relief.
Right.
But others that weren't a party of it. So is it like she's trying to have it both ways, that Planned Parenthood isn't that closely related when it comes to funding, but when it comes to the purpose of this, I can give close to extra special injunction relief to parties that aren't even a part of this lawsuit in practicality.
I think we're seeing, again, abortion distortion, like you're saying. You know, they're very tightly knit for one reason that, supports her pro-abortion stance, and they're not so tightly knit for another reason that doesn't support her pro-abortion stance. We see that. And I think what you said about, these injunctions and what the Supreme Court has said, now judges are trying to get very creative of how they don't run afoul of that, how they're, can possibly say, I'm not giving a nationwide injunction. Although she is giving an injunction, again, like to individual parties that were not before her court. They were not parties to this case, but she's lumping them in because they are an affiliate or a member of Planned Parenthood Federation.
And on top of that, it seems that she found that pathway, and with the briefing, obviously, that Planned Parenthood Federation for America put forward of this First Amendment violation, the freedom of association. As a matter of fact, she even goes into detail and says that, by defunding these individual clinics, it could harm Planned Parenthood Federation for America because that could discourage membership in their organization from states that don't allow abortion, and therefore it impairs their ability to engage in advocacy So now we're tying federal dollars to advocacy organizations, which just seems like a bizarre situation in and of itself. But on top of that, Planned Parenthood Federation for America doesn't receive Medicaid reimbursement. It doesn't have clinics. It is the umbrella organization. So if we're starting to separate it out, their only harm is that people may not want to pay them dues because they may lose federal subsidies.
Right. Absolutely. She has crafted and created this freedom of association harm, and that's what she's relying on for the whole entire opinion.
I want to take this phone call. We got a call specifically for Cece, Jerry in Rhode Island. While you're here, Cece, I want to make sure you have time to take this call.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead, Jerry.
Cece, my question is, after I've heard your analysis on a lot of cases, do you see the detached neutrality in this writing of this judge? And if not, is there oversight for those kind of judges?
Well, okay, Jerry, the first thing when I read this opinion, it sounds like an ad for Planned Parenthood. So there's no guessing where this judge's allegiance and alliance lies. She's not neutral. And yes, if judges are elected, then you can get rid of them through that election process. If they're appointed, then you need to make sure that you're, again, voting for the people that are appointing judges.
Just depends on your area.
It's kind of that kind of situation of that's the oversight. Definitely not neutral. You can read the opinion. She's very much pro Planned Parenthood.
What's the next step here? Okay, because our team is obviously involved in Massachusetts. We're involved so much in the life campaigns right now. We got about a minute, but what are we going to do here?
Real quickly, we will watch this. If an appeal is filed, if the government files an appeal, we'll file an appeal supporting. And if the Planned Parenthood files appeal, we can file appeal again or a brief
we may
against.
Have 2 more briefs coming up just at this appeal stage of the injunction, because now she set it up where we'll probably see one from the government and from Planned Parenthood. We will want to weigh in on behalf of the ACLJ members in both of those.
We are so excited to announce the ACLJ's brand new app, completely redesigned to provide you with the best tools available to partner with us at the ACLJ. You can watch the daily Seculo program, sign the petitions, customize your ACLJ membership experience, donate with the click of a button, and receive up-to-the-minute critical updates that the mainstream media can't censor. Just scan the QR code on your screen or go to your phone's app store, search ACLJ, and click install. It's that simple.